I'm Alice and I'm one of the cello teachers for Thames. In this lesson we're going to be learning how to play a G major scale and learning Long Ago from Suzuki Cello Book Volume 1. Before you join in, you might want to watch the video on how to tune your cello to make sure that your cello is nice and in tune. Your G major scale is very similar to the D major scale, which we learned in a previous video. Only instead of using the D and the A strings, we're going to be using the G and the D strings. We're going to be using exactly the same fingers with our left hand. Let's start learning our G major scale. We're going to start with a nice open G. Next, we're going to use our first finger. Then we're going to add our third finger. And then 4. Then we're going to go up to open D. First finger on the D string. Third finger. And then fourth finger. Remember, we only play the top note of the scale once, so then we're going to come straight back down with our third finger. Down to first finger. Open D. 4 fingers on the G string. Third finger. First finger. And finally open G. Let's try and play it the whole way through together. We are going to be playing 2 beats in each bow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's try and play it in a round. One part will start, and then after the first part has played 2 notes, the second part will join in. You can decide which part you want to play along with, and at the end you might want to rewind and have a go at the other part. 1, 2, 3, 4. Long Ago is in G major, just like the scale we just played, so most of the notes are on the G string and the D string. As you can see at the beginning, we are going to be starting on an open G. I am going to play the first bar, and then I would like for you to play it back. So you'll probably notice that it's using the first notes that we use in our G major scale, only we're going to be playing our G twice and our third finger twice as well. Let's try and play that together. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now let's have a look at the notes in the next bar. So we are going to be starting on open D, and then for the last note in the second bar, we need to make sure that we're crossing over back onto the G string with our third finger. So it will sound like this. that together. 3, 4. Let's try and play from the beginning, the first 2 bars together. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've probably noticed that I'm not using the same amount of bow on every note. So we need to make sure that for the crotchet notes that last for 1 beat, we're using more bow than we do on the quaver notes that last for half a beat. So you might find that you're using your whole bow for the crotchets, and then staying at the end of the bow that you've got to for the quavers, and then a whole bow on the next crotchet, and then staying at that end for the next 2 quavers, then your whole bow for the next crotchet, staying at that end, and then using your whole bow but a little bit slower because this note lasts for 2 beats, not 1. Remember, you can pause the video at any time if there are sections that you want to practice or go back over. So now might be a good time to pause the video and just work on those first 2 bars. In the 3rd bar and the 4th bar, we're still using notes from our G major scale, but instead of going up, we're now coming down. So we're going to start on an open D and slowly make our way back down to open G. The 3rd bar sounds like this. Let's try that together. 3, 4. And then the 4th bar will sound like this. Let's try the 4th bar together. 3, 4. Let's try and play the 3rd bar and the 4th bar together. So starting on open D, but you could get your 4th finger ready on the G string so that when you cross over onto the G string, you know your 4th finger is going to be in tune. You could always pluck it just to check. 3, 4. Let's try and do the whole of the first line. 1, 2, 3, 4. This might be another place that you want to pause the video just to do some work on the first line. The first 2 bars of the second line are exactly the same as the first 2 bars of the first line. Let's try and play them together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in bars 7 and 8, we're going to be using the same notes that we used in bars 3 and 4, but the rhythm is slightly different, so they are going to sound like this. Let's try and play those 2 bars together. Remember to check your 4th finger. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now looking ahead, we can see that the whole of the second line that we've just played is going to be exactly the same as the last line. So we have only got 1 more line to learn. If you have a look at the third line, you might notice that in bar 11 and 12, we are going to be using exactly the same notes that we use in bars 9 and 10. So we only have 2 more bars left to learn. I'm going to play bars 9 and 10 so that you can hear how they're going to sound. Hopefully you noticed that in bar 9 we have to cross over onto the C string. It's really important that we remember when we cross over onto the C string to use a heavier bow so that the sound is really, really clear. Let's play the notes that we have before we cross over onto the C string. So we're going to play D, 4, 3, 1, but then stop. Okay, let's try that together. 3, 4. And now let's put our first finger on the C string and just play those 2 notes. It will sound like this. Let's try that together. 3, 4. And now let's try and transition from first finger onto the G string to first finger onto the C string, so it will sound like this. Remember to start on an up bow. Let's try that together. 1, 2. Good, let's try that once more and really make sure that the sound on the C string is really strong. 3, 4. Let's try and do the whole of bar 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now let's have a go at bar 10. So let's get our 4th finger down on the G string and it is going to sound like this. Let's try that together. 3, 4. Okay, we're going to put bars 9 and 10 together. So starting on open D, but get your 4th finger ready on the G string before we start. 3, 4. Now, as I mentioned before, in bars 11 and 12, we're going to be playing exactly the same notes. However, you might notice that bars 9 and 10 had an F underneath, where bars 11 and 12 have an MP. So F stands for forte, which means loud, which is how we just played bars 9 and 10. But MP stands for mezzo piano, which means moderately quiet. So we need to make sure that we're playing bars 11 and 12 much quieter than we did bars 9 and 10. In order to do this, we're going to move our bow a little bit closer to the fingerboard, so it's going to go up a bit closer to you, and we're going to use a lighter bow. Okay, let's try and play bars 11 and 12. 3, 4. So you might have noticed that as well as moving my bow closer to the fingerboard and not pressing as hard, I also used much less bow. Let's try that one more time. 3, 4. Let's try and play the whole of the third line, really making sure that we drop down in dynamics in bar 11. 3, 4. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the last line of the piece is exactly the same as the second line, which we've already learned. Let's try and play the whole of the last line. 3, 4. any sections that you think you need to spend some more time on, and then you can rewind the video and go over them now. Now we're going to try and play it the whole way through with the accompaniment. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well done if you managed to keep up. Remember, you can try and do that as many times as you want until you're really, really happy with the final performance. Thank you so much for joining in with this lesson. Next time, we're going to be learning how to use our second finger.